You good?
Good.
All right, good. Well, today we are celebrating fatherhood. It is Father's Day. And this is a particular area of society that I have been thinking about lots lately, and just how important fatherhood is. The world has spent a lot of time, critiquing or even taking away what we would consider as Christian aspects of fatherhood. That I believe that God created within the construct of family to be healthy, to carry the responsibility, so that a family with both mother and father would operate in a holistic, godly sense. And so today, I thought it'd be great to hear from one of our amazing leaders. He is a wonderful husband.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're good. He is a father of three children and a grandfather.
Yes.
And has a lot of life experience. And so today's discussion is going to be around experiential wisdom when it comes to fatherhood. Gordon is one of our amazing board members as well. Pastor Emma and I just love him and Julie and the whole family and just the value they bring to Avant Life Church. I know this conversation this morning will bless you, especially if you're younger and you're at those years where you think about getting married and the concept of fatherhood is on your mind. Or maybe you're a woman and you're thinking, you know what, I'm thinking about who am I going to marry? Are they going to be a great dad and all that type of stuff? Hopefully this will help that conversation as well.
Hopefully.
But I thought it'd be cool if we would start with Gordon just introducing himself, your kids, your wife, your extended family now, your grandchild. It's
Right.
Really awesome.
So yeah, Gordon Gildemeister. I'm married to Julie, and we have three lovely children. Marcus, the oldest, Sophia, and then Anna, our youngest. Marcus and Sophia are both married. Anna is still at home with us, which is great. Lovely to have her around. We also have Marcus and Morgan, his wife, have a son, Niall, and we really appreciate spending time with them and with him. It reminds me of when I used to hold Marcus as a baby, when I hold Niall, so it's quite exciting.
I love that picture of being married, because you guys got married young.
Yes.
And then you had kids relatively young in today's concept.
Today's standard, yeah.
Yeah. And then, I would say you're one of the youngest grandfathers I've met here in Canada. And just today we're going to discuss, how you viewed fatherhood when you were growing up, what it was like to be a dad yourself, but now being a grandfather. And I think you've touched on just how awesome that is. When you were growing up, I know you have an interesting background where your dad came from, his own journey, and maybe you want to discuss that a little bit, where your dad's come from and how that impacted how he fathered and how you saw fatherhood for a while. It's a really cool story.
Well, my father is an immigrant to Canada from Germany. He grew up during the wartime. He was a young boy in the war, so he's seen a lot of things that obviously would have affected him through life and the way that he sees life in certain situations. And that was probably brought onto his children, myself included, as a very strict upbringing. And there was always God in our family, but it was quite legalistic and sometimes difficult. A lot of great times.
You grew up in Germany during
Yes.
World War II.
Yeah.
And then he immigrated to
Alberta, Canada, yeah.
Still Canada, okay. Special part of Canada. Did he or did you guys have much contact with your grandfather, his father?
No, his father died before I was born. He had a tree climbing accident and ended up passing away from that. So he came to Canada at 18, and shortly when he arrived, his father passed away. So his struggle was whether he should go back and take care of his siblings and mother. Through the war, he was the provider at 10 years old to take care of the family. So his struggle was whether he should go back or stay here in Canada at that time. So I never met his father. I met his mother, or my grandmother, several times. We traveled to Europe a couple of times, so I met her there, and then she would come visit us occasionally.
So you mentioned that he's quite strict, and I think that whole generation, but especially the European mindset was very disciplined.
Very.
The work ethic was, you know, would make this current generation look like there's a little bit more growth that they could work in. And knowing that would have filtered into how he parented, and I've had the pleasure of meeting your dad. He definitely says what he thinks, personality, which I find quite enjoyable. As you were growing up as a kid, especially, you know, coming into those teenage years, how did you view that? Were you, especially him being from Germany, you're now in Canada, was there a sense of like, don't let dad come around my friends, or was he always involved in that? Like, how did that work? Because I know a lot of young people, that's how they think. It's like, oh. Right.
We were quite involved in the church, so our friends were all church-based friends. Mm-hmm. So they had, and we also went to an immigrant church here in Vancouver. It was the German Pentecostal church, and so everybody there had similar backgrounds that I did, or similar upbringings that I did. So it was sort of, we were all in the same boat together.
Sure. Yeah.
So we didn't socialize a lot with our neighborhood friends or school kids. It was quite separate at that time. There was church and there was neighborhood kids that we would hang out with, but the two would not mix very often.
Mm. Yeah. And do you, going to school, did you go to a state school? Did you go to private school?
Public school.
Public school.
Yeah, state school.
How was that? I was like, what do they call that here? Definitely not homeschool, right?
No, not homeschool.
I'm just kidding. Homeschooling's fine. I did it for a year. It was fun. Being in a public school, was there, in that time of I guess, history here in BC, was there a lot of multinational backgrounds, or was it?
The school that I went to, there wasn't a lot of multinational situations or kids there. So there was, I kept my upbringing sort of separate from my school kids, school friends. They probably wouldn't have understood or been able to comprehend what it was like, perhaps.
How was it, like, what would be some of the fondest memories you have of your dad? As growing up, obviously he's still with us. So.
Yeah, as odd as it sounds, we had a lot of fun working. We worked a lot together, and he taught me a lot about work and work ethics, and we actually did have a lot of fun working together. We also did a few fishing trips, which were highlights, camping trips, which were highlights, lots of road trips. We have family still in Edmonton, so we travel back and forth, and it was a lot of fun doing that and just hanging out with him. He is a man that knows a lot about a lot, so he would teach me a lot of things, and just practical life things, how to fix things, worked on cars together and motorcycles, and we had a lot of interaction that way, but a lot of it was work based or activity based, not just playing around, or he wasn't a sports guy, so we didn't play sports together, but we worked and hung out that way.
Now, one of my favorite stories about your dad was not too long ago, he picked up sailing. Mm-hmm. This might give people perspective of your dad. Do you want to tell that story?
Sure. So as a young boy, they had some waterways close to their home, and he would carve sailboats. He described them to be about 16 inches long or so, and he would sew sails and create the different winches on this miniature boat, and he would sail it in the little waterways that they had. And in his mind one day he said, I'm gonna buy myself a sailboat and I want to sail either around the world, or somehow he thought of Hawaii. And so that was in his mind as a 10-year-old boy. And at 75, he started slowing down at work, and he bought himself a sailboat. First circumnavigated Vancouver Island, and then sailed to Hawaii. And so he accomplished his dream at 75.
That speaks a lot to his character, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's incredible. Because the waterways around Vancouver Island are quite treacherous.
They're some of the treacherous in the world.
Yeah, which blows my mind. But then to sail all the way, how long is that trip to Hawaii?
I believe it took him 5 days to get to San Francisco, and then 19 days to get across to Hawaii.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. That's
Yeah.
crazy. And there's like a rotation, right? Of
There
who's
was
asleep.
there was two other fellows that he asked to come along with him, and so they would do a rotation. I think it was a 4 hour rotation. Every 4 hours they would switch it up.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
through
incredible.
the night, through the day, through the night, everything. Yeah.
All right. So now we've got a pretty good picture of your dad. You got married young. How old were you when you and Julie got married?
I believe I was 23, and we worked in the family business, and then in '89, I believe I was 24. We started our own company,
Yeah. Wow.
and Julie and I partnered up with that, and we worked together. We still do, and but I had the foundations of my father's upbringing, work ethics, and taught me how to do what I do.
And
Yeah.
you've got an incredibly successful business. And one of the things I really love is when I speak to people that have been involved with your company is that they speak to, one, the character you and Julie carry, but also just the like you said, the work ethic that's then carried on
Mhm.
with your employees, which in many ways is the result of your father's
Yes,
investment into your life.
absolutely.
And now it's flowing into people that might not be biologically related to you,
Mhm.
but learning that work ethic is incredible. How old were you when you had Marcus, your eldest?
26, 27. I was 27.
Wow.
Yeah, we have Marcus. We were trying for a family earlier, but we were blessed with him then.
That's in today's age. It's relatively young to be
Mhm.
starting a family, and there'd be plenty of young men in our church around that age group, and the concept of having a son at
Right.
that age. When you found out, you know, you would be having a child, what was going through your head? And I know when I, found out we're having Levi, there's that internal dialogue of, am I going to be a good dad?
Right.
How can I be a good dad? Am I going to be like my dad? Where can I get better at it? Did you have that same thing, or was that just me?
I did, yeah. First of all, we were wanting to have children, so it was very exciting to
Yeah.
get the news. And it's always a surprise. You're not sure if you're getting a girl or a boy. Either one is great. And we were blessed with a son. And then, like you say, the dialogue starts happening. What am I going to be like as a father? And I know that I had great, my parents were great for me, but I knew that there were some things that I would do differently, having given the chance. And I think I've done some things differently. Some things are the same. But yeah, it's also a lot of prayer, because there's no manual when you get a child other than the Bible. And so a lot of it is making up as you go along, and a lot of it is what you've been brought up with. You bring into what you know, you bring into your parenting style. And there were some parenting styles that I was brought up with that I knew I didn't want to pass on
Yeah.
and do something different. So I tried hard to do that.
Just going back to, because I think most people get the concept of parenthood, fatherhood, motherhood, a lot of sacrifice involved.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed what you said when you said there's a lot of making up
Yes.
things. Because it resonates with me, where you're just like, I think I'm making this up. Especially when it comes to like how you discipline your kids, like trying to figure that out.
Right.
How how you structure family life, and how that changes, increases every time you add a child.
Right.
But the whole idea of making it up is not as if it's like, it can come across as reckless, but it's not. When you say making it up, there's a lot of things that are dynamically specific to the personality of your child,
Yes.
where they fit into the family, if they're the eldest, the middle, or the youngest, where the family is at. I actually find the making up part some of the most beautiful moments. And one of the things I enjoy talking about you and Julia, family. You used to have, and you still do have, regular family get-togethers.
Yes.
You have like family game nights or movie nights, and
We did, yeah. We called them family fun nights, and they would consist of either getting together and having a pizza, or making a favorite meal that somebody had, either watch a movie, or often we would go to the rec center, to the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Thursday evenings was family night, I think. So we'd go swimming, head out to Tasso's Pizza in West Van for a pizza, and then back home either for a video or games or something. So that was a really important part. of our kids' life. I think we spent a lot of time together, and like you touched on, all the children are different. You can't raise one or have the same techniques to teach or to discipline one that you can with all of them. They're all so different.
Yeah.
And you could easily overlook something in one and find something in another, and how you deal with each situation is different.
So let's talk about that one for a little bit. So you have Marcus, who's your eldest,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have two more daughters.
Correct.
Do you want to explain how they fit in the picture?
All three children are different.
Yep.
Marcus and Anna are more adventurous. Sophia, the youngest, the middle one, is a little bit more quiet and more of a contemplative person. All of them are extremely strong, extremely talented, and they all love God, love Jesus, serve Him, but each one is definitely different. And I don't know how to explain it.
No, I get what you're saying, and without wanting to give away too much for family secrets, I get that as well. Like for us, we often discuss how Levi, Alice, and Eden in many ways have very similar personality traits as your kids, and
Correct.
both being male, female.
Right.
We often see Levi and Eden because they are maybe more bigger personalities, more adventurous in many ways when it comes to just physicality and stuff like that. And Alice is definitely more internalizes things. We see Levi and Eden pair up, and just parenting that dynamic where you have one child maybe not as engaged in the same way as the other two.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. But then also we have similar situations with Marcus and Anna. But Sophia is extremely strong. I would say that she's the strongest of the three.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, but it's in a quiet, gentle way. And yeah, she had the opportunity to go to Bible school in Germany by herself, which both Marcus had the opportunity. Anna has had the opportunity. She's gone as well to Europe to Bible school, but Marcus would have nothing to do with it because he wanted to stick close to home.
Oh,
whereas Sophia, she wanted to experience life, get out and just take it all in. And so like I said, each one is so different.
Yeah.
But similar in a way.
How did you parent that, knowing that, because I agree, they can, because they are soft in nature, you can make the mistake of thinking that they're not as strong, which is not the truth.
No.
But how did you feel when, Sophia was like, I want to go to Germany and I want to, be by myself over there? And
well, at first it's like, wait a minute, are you sure? But throughout life, you have to equip each child differently, and you have to equip them to stand on their own, because, we're given, it says in the Bible about having a full quiver, but a quiver is full of arrows, and the arrows aren't meant to stay there. You've got to launch them and send them off.
Wow.
So equipping each child so that they can go out is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoy speaking to each and every one of your children. They're amazing in their own way. And you're quite right, very unique, and their strengths vary. What are some things, looking back, because they're all adults now, Anna graduated last year.
That's right.
She went to Bible college the start of this year in Spain. What are some things, looking back, would you say you and Julie have discussed as, wish we spent more time doing something, or we really miss those things that no longer, because the kids grow up and they change.
So
and it's
fast.
different, and it's not that we don't appreciate what's happening now, but what are some things that you can sort of tell, maybe young dads or dads to be, that hey, don't rush these moments, don't neglect these moments?
One thing that somebody talked to me when the kids were young, and you would say, oh, I can't wait till they're out of diapers, or I can't wait till they're walking, or I can't wait till this. And then my dad actually said, you shouldn't wish for that, because it goes so quickly. You should hang on to all that. Yeah. Even though it's frustrating and it's difficult, just enjoy it and embrace it and just roll with it, because it's going to be gone in no time. Wow. And it's true. Yeah.
So you've honed in here on things that we often, one of the things that terrified me, I can't remember who said this to me, someone from church, and we discussed we always remember the firsts,
Mm-hmm.
but we rarely remember the last.
last.
And this freaked me out
You're right.
because, that last time you're able to carry your son. I can't,
Yeah.
like I can carry Levi now, but it's an effort, and it's a struggle. But it ties into that whole idea.
Yeah.
We often rush things on, and it's sort of like I could probably get emotionally quite upset if I try to sit and remember the last time I could legitimately hold Levi and rock him to sleep, because we always think about the firsts versus, when was the last time I got to do this and I got to do that. And it's probably all going to flood back to me, and this is a question I want to ask. Yes, Marcus is married, but when Sophia got married, being your daughter that you had to give away, how was that moment?
Now you're getting me.
Talking about the last, it's the last and the first in one moment, right? It's beautiful, it's the first. But how did you deal with that? Because I don't know if I will be able to.
It was difficult. I remember writing the my speech for the wedding for Sophia's wedding. I was in the office writing it away, and Julie said she would just hear me sobbing and crying and trying to rehearse it. And I thought, oh man, I can never get through this. And I bucked up and I went through it, but it was a really difficult thing. And you talked about the last. The night before the wedding. With our kids, we used to go and pray with them every night at bedtime. And so I went down to Sophia's room, and we had a prayer. We had prayer before she went to bed the night before the wedding. And that was a really profound, beautiful thing. You got me. Yeah, so that was it. So that was a really special time to be able to do that with Sophia. But then when you talked about remembering the last, I wish somebody would have told me that 25 years ago. But yeah, you should always remember the last thing, because I can't remember the last time I held or picked them up.
It's confronting, isn't it? I at least got to digest that in private, so I apologize. That's a beautiful story, Gordon. It's such a beautiful reflection of a father's heart, and I think we're all blessed to have heard that. And I think as a dad, knowing that I'm marching towards those seasons in my life, it spurs me on to never grow weary in doing those things, like praying with your kids every night, tucking them into bed, taking those opportunities. Levi's still, right now, he turns 10 this year, is still wants dad to come down and give him a cuddle, and sometimes it's not convenient, and sometimes it's out of the routine you've got, I need to get done, but always keeping that in mind. There's going to be a time where he doesn't ask anymore. Right,
that's right. And that's
like,
going to hurt more than the inconvenience of doing it.
Yeah, and it's just the beautiful nature of fatherhood is it evolves and grows, and your needs, how you're needed by your kids, change.
Yes.
And I think that's something that both hurts but gives value to the season. And now, meeting, both Matthew and Morgan, which Marcus's wife's name is Morgan, is now a daughter in love for you, and a son in love in Matthew. Releasing that and seeing your family grow, now becoming a grandfather, and you're in that season of almost statesmanship. Right. How does that feel, where you're... Because I know they come to you for a lot of advice and support, and I think it's amazing that they would feel comfortable, and even better, they turn to you. I think that's a parent's heart, is that they'd have their kids that would turn back to them, and their spouses would turn to them and feel comfortable.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. It's a great feeling to have wonderful children that we have, and then now having the responsibility, not the sole responsibility, but a portion of a responsibility with grandchildren, and just to to do that well as well. And I think when I said earlier that there's no manual when you get children, um, as parents, it's good to be able to have parents that you can come alongside with and ask for advice on, which Marcus and Morgan do, and it's wonderful, and happy to do it, and it's just it's a great thing to see the legacy continue on.
Oh man, I think we've discussed this, and it's always intrigued me, is that being a grandparent, you've been through parenting now.
Yes.
So you know that it's one, you know your kids aren't made from glass, and
No.
because you know I've done it where you're hyper protective and you get everything you think you need. But as a grandparent, you sort of get to that point where you realize
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay, and you don't stress as much.
No.
And there's that whole image that when I was a kid, if I was to draw on the wall, I'd get a smack. And I know this is not true, but it sort of gives an image. But then when your child draws on your parents or your mum or dad's wall, they like frame it, right? Because and it's not. And I know that's not exactly true, but it's you start to realize, hey, crayon on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a conference, and the pastor spoke about, and I think this is really interesting, of fatherhood in the church and the responsibility of different generations. And he spoke about a church that was closing down, reached out to him and said, would you take us on as a campus, a multi-site church? And so he took his board members, and he took the wives and the families, and they all went there, and he asked the head elder of the church, what led you to this point to give us, or want to give us the building and be a part of what we're doing? And the elder's response was, we miss seeing dirty fingerprints of the kids on the window.
Right.
And as a church, we're constantly described as, oh, you've got so many young people and so many millennials, and just going, okay, being one of the incredible fathers in the house, what's some advice you could give, especially young men right now, those that are in early adulthood, or maybe they've been adults for a few years or 10 years now? One, if they're wanting to get their life in regards to being married in order, or if they're striving for those things, plus, what is something they can work towards in their own life that's going to make them an incredible husband, incredible father, incredible grandfather, starting at the beginning of their journey here. In a church context, how do we foster a church that's multi-generational, that isn't being swayed by the things of the world? Because fatherhood in the world today is very different to the way God wanted it to look like, how the church would want to see it happen. But how would you encourage, especially young men, just with the final, hey, in a godly church life, everything aspect, just how do you get it done? I know it's a big question, so you can pretty much have a go at anything, but
how to get it done? Well, I think most importantly would be to base it on Scripture. Finding what God's plan is for a man is so important, whether that man is married or not. When they are married and starting a family, I would say the sooner the better. And things will work out. A lot of people talk about, oh, I'm not ready for this, or I'm not ready for that. But I think if God's in it, then you're ready. And you just got to follow that and go with it. He's going to give you what you need. I had the great privilege of having a very supportive wife. They say behind a good man is a better woman. And I totally agree with that. And just starting young and just going for it, and realizing that men have to be men and step up to it and do their part. Take the time with your family, with your kids. Teach them what you can, and I think most importantly is just spending time with them.
Well, Gordon, on behalf of Emma, myself, Avant Life, we're just so blessed to have a leader in our church as yourself, as well as Julie, that one I think are incredibly genuine,
It's an honor.
and amazing role models. One of the things Emma and I just gets, one, we're impressed, but we're just blessed by seeing this, is that you're not a husband or a father that leans on the rights of your position in the family, but you press into the responsibilities. And I just see you serve your wife so beautifully as she reciprocates that and serves you so beautifully. I see how your children are so well raised, but how you guys interact is beautiful. And it's a testimony of who you are as a dad and as a leader. And there's a lot of things you guys do for the church that is unseen. And so, one, thank you for being vulnerable and honest with us today. But two, for the work that you have done and you continue to do, and the love and passion you have for God in serving through Avant Life Church. We just want to say thank you.
You're welcome, but it's really just a blessing to be able to do that and to share our lives with the group at Avant. It's wonderful.
Thank you, God. Do you want to pray, and then we can?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come before you, and today we're remembering fathers. We thank you for the gift of fatherhood, and we just pray your protecting hand over all the fathers that are out there. I ask that you would give them wisdom, that you would guide and direct them, that you would give them strength, that you would allow them to be the men that you have called them to be fathers, to be husbands, to be listeners and doers of your word, and we just ask your continued blessing upon them in all that they do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you once again, Gordon. Back to you, Pastor Ben.